Shalom, all praises to
To
Yahawah,
Yahawah,
bahasham,
bahasham,
Yahawashi,
Yahawashi,
bahasham,
bahasham,
Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of great millstone that rule well, laboring the word and doctrine. Shalom and peace. May that be unto the elect of the nation of Israel. I want to do a quick video going through certain scriptures of Revelation 18, the proverbial end credits of this man's system. Forget 2 Ezra 6 and 9 first.
This is 2 Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9. It says, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Continue. The hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand." Other question Ezra asked thou not. I answered then and said, O Lord, that bearest rule, if I have found favor in thy sight, I beseech thee, shew thy servant the end of thy tokens, whereof thou shewest me part the last night.
So this the last rulership before our rulership, before the rulership of the Israelites, will be this Roman system, headed by Babylon the Great, but also propped up by the EU, the European Union, and what else?
NATO,
the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So altogether, that makes up the ruling system of the new revival of the Roman Empire. Now this is going down, pursuant to biblical prophecy, starting with the head, and then the rest of the body will corrupt, if you like. So start Revelation 18 and 1, Babakosha.
Revelation chapter 18 verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
Right, so talking about desert creatures, because what you see now is a fruitful, tropical climate, whatever it is actually going to get turned into a complete desert. That's when you read about Ophir, Ophir, our Payah, goes back to reducing to ashes. Because ultimately, when it's all said and done, this, what is right now, it's a nice land. Don't get it twisted. It's got good trees, it's got some good greenery, so on and so forth. But that's all going to be it's all going to get burned up. And then all you'll have there is desert creatures. So keep going.
Verse 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
Right, so all these are the nations. The reason that they're going to be so upset when Babylon crumbles is because they've made money. Right, it's not because they love the Edomites, because they've treated them so well, because they've always considered them and been thoughtful regarding these other nations' needs, wants, and desires.
The same thing with those that are that are making merchandise on this earth, that are getting profit from selling goods and whatnot on this earth, who are renowned for even also saying they don't like the Western world. They're also gonna just be sad when it's destroyed because their money's gone. Can't speak for all of them. Some might be the elect, but of course, for the most part, generalization.
That's what does it say? Where a man's treasure is, there shall his heart be also. So you have to make sure you've got your treasure in the right place and storing it up as wisdom. There's no greater riches than wisdom. So let's keep going.
Revelation 18 verse
4.
4. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues.
Right, so a lot of people like to use this as saying, come out of the ways of Babylon. It's actually talking about the literal physical deliverance, as the brother's about to read here to back it up.
This is Revelation 11 and verse 12. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and the enemies beheld them. And the cloud is indeed a chariot.
Yep.
Right? Sometimes likened to a cloud, sometimes likened to a pit of fire in the heavens. Star as well, Matthew 2, star.
Yeah.
And the ones that I myself have seen, they look like stars. I've never seen one necessarily look like a cloud. But they'll have they'll be made of elements of all types of manner of things because they're spiritual. They can just mold and change shape, and they can teleport. They can do,
appear, reappear, disappear.
marvelous
That
things.
short I put up in it. I was just sat making a video, I saw it, man, just faded in. I thought, let me get this on camera. Filming it, bang. It just fades into nowhere, man. So you best believe the angels are watching. Yeah, they're watching us and trying to protect, or not trying to, but protecting the elect. And while we're trying to make our calling and election sure, and they're also watching these devils, man. Watching the rulership of this kingdom and how it operates. Exploiting every little, nook and crevice that they can to make sure that whatever this man does, he's putting himself in a trick bag.
And verse 13, and the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake was slain of men 7,000.
So a complete amount.
And that earthquake is really referring to the missiles hitting America and destroying it. And of course, the missiles will explode, will cause the earth to quake, to shake.
To move back and forth.
Yeah, earth shaking to and fro, like it says in Isaiah 24 and verse 10. And then again, it says 7,000, not literally 7,000 men. But 7 represents completion, so it's referring to a complete amount of destruction coming upon a certain number of individuals. That, of course, it's not literally telling us how many that is. This is, and the remnant were affrighted, right? The remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. Let's get that word for affrighted, because even the elect are going to have. They desire salvation, and they're going to see the salvation and know that they've got the victory, and they're still going to be afraid. That's how fearful the Lord's judgment is going to be when it comes to America. Now it says for affrighted, it's the word emphobos, which means
phobia.
Yep, thrown into fear, terrified, affrighted. Yeah, there you are. That's a good one. A phobia, a fear. It said it was when you go to line, it says a rational fear.
It's not necessarily a rash. Etymologically, it's not.
Okay, thought
necessarily.
if you keep going into the words, basically, it won't necessarily suggest that. It'll just be fear. Alright, thought Revelation 18.
That sounds good.
Revelation 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she shall fill to her double. Right, so everything that Babylon the Great has done, throughout the world, and upon the children of Israel, it's gonna, come back twice to her. All the wickedness, all the, the lies and everything, having that image of Caesar Borgia, Serapis Christus pushed out there, slavery, all right, Jim Crow laws, LGBT, lifestyle, everything, all right.
Man, they could get a whole sentence just on one of the things that brother mentioned just there. So you imagine every single transgression, every affliction they've put on us, they're going to get that double, man. So it sounds so nice, they feel it twice. Let's get the next verse as well.
Verse 7, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow.
Let's get Isaiah 47. We won't speak on it too much, just for time purpose, but you can see that mirrored there.
Isaiah 47:1, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate.
So if there's no throne, yeah, well, you're not a queen. Maybe you were once a queen, now you're no longer.
Right. And
just get verse 2 and 3.
Yeah. Verse 2, take the millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. And that's, Yahawashi is going to come with vengeance with the angels, spiritual power, man. With a spiritually glorified body, he's not going to come in with anything except much judgment. From It's going to be a realm against another realm.
The War of the Worlds. All them alien invasion films are really going to come to pass.
And not literally the way they depicted
Well,
in
no,
movies.
alien means foreign.
Hmm.
So there's going to be a foreign invasion, a foreign from the heavens. It's not going to be a terrestrial invasion, but rather a celestial.
Like, I went to see that movie, Nope. By the way, that movie sucks. Don't watch it. There's no way you can like it. It's really bad. But that movie is, it's showing you like different types of like alien life in this. It's showing you like the concept, like when people wearing like alien costumes, and it's like this shit is all blasphemy, man. The angels don't look like different mutant creatures. They'll have similar attributes, in fact, to man, because they bear the same image when they come across us at times as well. They can, of course, they can portray certain things, but when you go into the scriptures, for example, when in Daniel 10, it goes into the angel looking having the skin. What was the skin? I can't remember exactly. I'll get it real quick. As quick as I can.
But that's why it even says, be careful, when you're entertaining strangers, for many of entertaining an angel, because they can come in a human form.
Daniel 10. There you go. Verse 6, his body also like the beryl, and his face is the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of multitudes. And when you go into Daniel 10, it's actually referring, I believe, I think it's Michael, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, an angel. So yeah, man. And then, of course, the movie goes into clouds and a so-called UFO flying around the place. It mentions how sometimes they call them UAPs. It has some stuff they mentioned regarding these things, so you can throw a bit of truth in there. And the movie inherently is just like a blindside kind of thing. Interesting enough, in the movie, the main characters, they own a ranch, right? And their ranch obviously has horses. Is it a ranch? Whatever they have, they own horses. They have horses and stuff. And it's funny because the chariots keep killing the horses, so it's like one chariot of one realm against another.
Revelation chapter 18 and verse 8. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. But strong is the Lord power, who judgeth her.
Get that scripture, Revelation 17. I should be shot with fire.
Revelation chapter 17, and I'm gonna go to verse 16. And the 10 horns, which is the European Union, that's the 10 horns of the beast, and that beast is referring to the fourth beast, which is Rome. And it says, and the fourth beast is in Daniel 7. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. And the whore is, when you go up, you can see it's correlating to America, Babylon the Great. Okay. So it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate. Right? They make her desolate, empty, like a desert, and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire.
Revelation chapter 18, verse 9. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning.
Again, is it because the Edomites are just being so kind to these nations? They've just given them everything they could ever desire. They've treated them righteously. Let's keep reading.
Verse 10. Standing afar off, for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come.
Right, and that's a physical, literal hour. There's going to be 1 literal hour that judgment's going to come. And that's a short while. For if you imagine how many hundreds of years Babylon's slowly been heaping riches unto herself, they're carrying on all their works, 1 hour is a very small amount of time. Let's keep going.
And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more.
Right, so now it's going to list it, so it doesn't really need a breakdown, but you're just about to see all the manner of precious things that Babylon's putting out.
Verse 12. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and of fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all thine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble. and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men.
Right, the slaves, so we've got literal physical slaves, which if you think of slavery, you don't tend to think of the Arab slave trade or this slave trade or that slave trade. You tend to think of Babylon, because that's the one that's been made most famous. And souls of men, if you can buy a soul, if they were selling souls, that means they're in purchase, they're in demand, buying and selling of souls of men. Right, and that's deep.
Verse 14, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all.
Because if they're not being made, if they're not being produced, you're not going to find it, man. You're not just going to stumble on a desert treasure chest full of cinnamon. Oh look, shit, I found a whole bunch of beasts and sheep and horses. It's all going to perish. So that means all these animals, all the livestock, everything will perish except for the elect. That's the only thing coming out of Babylon.
Verse 15, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off.
And this is talking about after Babylon's been destroyed. It's not talking about whatever that brother said it was talking about, during the pandemic or whatever.
And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate.
Again, that 1 hour, that's a literal time frame. Certain times you read in the scriptures about different time frames, time and times and dividing of time. What is it, 1,000, what's that, 3.5 years, 360 times 3.5. 1,260, I think it says, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, however, whatever 360 times 3.5 is, that is a spiritual time frame. Like it has 3.5 years of the points it's talking about. That's talking about a 350 time period. This hour is literal, right? Because that's the amount of time it's going to take for these nukes to hit, the fire to come, the chariots to shoot upon it, and that whore will be out of here, man.
Verse 20, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city, Babylon, be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all.
Right, so it's like a sandwich, man. It started with violence and it ends in violence. Right, and all through the midst of it was oppression. Right, so that's one nice sandwich. And to wash it down, you're gonna get a cup. You get a cup of judgment without mixture, without chaser.
Verse 22, and the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee.
Your millstone is representative of work happening. So, I mean, there's not going to be any work. There's not going to be any people clocking in, going to their factories, doing whatever they do. That's all going to be out of here, man.
Verse 23, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee.
So you're not going to have a whole bunch of, oh look, let's get married. You're not going to have a whole bunch of weddings. Why? Because there's not going to be anywhere there to get married.
For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived.
Right, everyone's drank the wine of Babylon. Read Revelation 17:2 to see that. So all these nations being influenced negatively by this wicked rulership.
And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all that was slain upon the earth.
And that also proves that there is prophets in Babylon today. Right, how is there blood of prophets? How is there blood of the saints? The saints is obviously the Israelites. You might say, yeah, I know we're the Israelites, I know this is Babylon, but I don't believe about that prophets coming back thing. But how is the blood of the prophets found in Babylon? You know, Babylon was only established in a certain amount of time. You know, if you want to say that that's after, if you want to say the last prophecies was in the book of Revelation or whatever, but then it also talks about how you will prophesy again before many kings and everything like that. And at that time he was up in age. You know, so what would have to happen? The prophets would have to come back. There's always been prophets. Could you get the prophets that have been before me and before thee? 28 and 8.
Yeah. I have to just keep reading the script to remember. Jeremiah 28:8, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence.
Right, and a lot of those prophets were in and around those nations. Right, so you best believe you've got prophets in Babylon. They're prophesying the end of Babylon that will be delivered out of Babylon.
Because if we're everywhere, then of course. And if the elect are going to be gathered from the four winds, then of course then there's going to be teachers in the four winds pushing out the word, man. This is Mark chapter 13 and verse 27. It reads, "And then shall he send his angels, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven." Yeah. So from the uttermost part of earth and heaven shall the elect be taken, gathered.
And that's the end credits, man. That's the end credits of this man's system.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that rule well. They bring the word and doctrine. Halalyam la Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.